Hey, hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to learn about type constraint in Terraform. So in Terraform we have two types majorly. One is called primitive type, another is called complex type. So in primitive type, what can be there? It would be like, say, like this. You have a single type where it's like a number, a string, a boolean, right? You got this user ID, which is 3, as a name, as a cluster, it's a string type. And for example, user exists, it's a true or false, as a boolean type, right? That's a primitive type. Now you go to another type, which is called complex type, right? Now in complex type, we have this kind of set. We have a list, tuple, map, object, right? So I will go by in details about a complex type. So in complex type, we have another subdivision, which is called collection type and structural type. So in collection type, it allows multiple values of one primitive type to be grouped together, right? You have the constructors like list, map, set, but you cannot mix, all of them into one place. Say for example, you have a variable where you are giving like this print details. You have a type called list and you are taking as a string as an argument. So you are passing the default value as a list. You have, say, Vishwajit Samantha, but you cannot mix the list type with the map type. So that means this variable can have only one type, which is the list type. You cannot have another type assigned with also as a map type, right? That's the simple, I will say, definition. So this is the collection types. Now we go to the structural type. So when we say structural type, so why we go by there? Because in many of the examples we can in Terraform, right, we can use this place, this variable pattern where we have this single type and we can use this. But there are many other use cases where we need to go to a more structural type. We have more values there. We can use, say dynamic blocks there. You can have more things, control bit. So we go by the structural type. We'll go by the use case also in our demo section. So when I go the definition of structural type, it's simple. You have the option here to allow multiple values of different primitive types to be grouped together, right? And yeah, you have this type as object, tuple, set, and all. And you can also mix. Say for example, I have taken a variable called datadog and I have declared the type as an object type, right? So I have, for example, I have given here API key as a string, account details as a number. I can mix and match many things, but you can see here both the string and the number types, they are declared in the same variable under the object structural types. So this is possible under this, structural types, complex type, parameters. Now there is one more thing, which is called any type constraint. So any type constant is, you can define any what do you call as a type, okay, and Terraform will judge its best guess to determine the object type, right? Say for example, here you have a list and you declare as an any, right? So you have this 34, 46, 82, right? So Terraform will judge that, I see this as a number, integer, right? So this may be an integer type. However, if you say like this is a 34, then you have a string and then you have a boolean, right? Then any type will have an issue because it will try to understand what type it is, and it is hard to determine what type it is. So it's at a single pattern. If it is being there, it is better for Terraform to understand this, right? So this is all about the complex types as well as the primitive types. So these are the constraints which we have in Terraform. So we will go to demo section and we will see in examples, how this actually behaves, right? Hi, so let's come to the demo time. Here we have taken two files. One is output.tf and another is variable.tf. So for this demonstration of this variables and the complex types, we have taken output only, as in like to experiment what the variables we're assigning and how we're filtering it out, right? So we'll start with the basic thing, we'll declare a variable where, as we see, we are going to use a list and we are going to iterate over the list. So example, if I take a variable and I give the name as a print details, right, and this is the type here, so I'm taking the type as list and it's a string type, right, and the default value which I'm using, so let me say code and with visually, right. So this is the default type, for example. I mean, this is a value which I'm passing over the list, and this value whatever I have done here, right, I want to iterate that and to print it out. So I'll use the output resource here. So I will say first segment, for example, and here I can say like this as a message, first segment is, now I'm going to iterate over the variable, right. So it's going to var dot print details, right, and it's a list, right. So you can say as a list you have an index also, like this is the 0th index, first and second. So I will use this first index, for example. Similarly, I'm going to take the 3 separate segments. Okay, I will say this is the second, and I will copy this second, and this is a third segment. Take this, great. So, and I'm going to use the indexes accordingly, right. So let me go to Terraform. I will use initialize Terraform init, great, Terraform plan, okay, I can see, and I'm going to apply, and this time I'm going to use auto approve just to avoid the yes no. So you can see the first segment is code, second segment is width, and third segment is visually. I can use some, what do you call as, something like this, make it separate and it looks nice, I will reapply. Yeah, first segment is code, second segment is width, third is visually, great. So this is the another type, this is one type which is the list type, right. Now we have seen here, we have what do you call as object type also, right. This is the simple types, I mean complex type only, right? And we have the structural types also. So with the structural types where we have the objects creation, so we'll see the example as an object. So I'll give a variable name called say user details, right. Here I'm going to take as a list, right. So I'm going to use a list and take as an object. Now in this object, whatever I'm going to declare, first I will be declaring those and then I will go to the values. So say example, I'm going to take the declaration region. I want to say region would be a string type. Okay, I'm just taking an example as a AWS. So region I'm using say I'm user, that would be a string type again. I want to say renewal days, so IAM user has a renewal time, right. I mean, you can see the age on dates, you want to renew or not. I just give a number of renewal date, so that's a number type, integer type. Again, the IAM user might have different roles, so that would be a list because a user can have multiple roles, so that I'm passing as a string, right. So now this is my schema, you can call as, like this is being ready. Okay, now I want to declare some variable values here, so I will go here. Okay, so first of all I want to make this because it's completing, so this is a list is completion, great. Now I'm going to declare the default here, so default value what I'm going to take. So here I'm going to put the default value as a region. I want to use region, and the region value is US East 1. Say for example, the value is region is US East 1. Okay. Next is IAM user, right? So I'm going to use IAM user, and this time I'm using the IAM user as a visual date, right? And the renewal days, I'm saying say 30. this time, say example, I'm having S3 full access. I'm just giving this, and I'm also giving an administrator access, full admin. This is one example. I'll go by another example. I'll copy this guy just to save some time, and then I'm going to use is as US West 2 as a region, and yeah, I will say right Sinchan as I am user. That's my baby name, Sinchan, and I'm going to give this guy some Athena access. Athena is also another AWS service which is majorly used for querying. You have some query options in there. It's a SQL DB kind of thing. So Athena access I'm also giving the admin access. So this user has Athena access added along with the administrator access, right? Something like that. Anyways, administrator access both covers all of them, but this is for the use case. As this example, what are the permissions or the roles this user can have? Another user also have different roles, okay, and that can also put as a list, okay. Now the variable is ready, right? What I need to do is I want to print out the user roles or the details and all. So I'll go to the output section. I'll declare my output variable. So this time I was looking for, say, first user region. Okay, first user region, which is US East 1. I want to print that. So for printing that, what I can do is I will use var dot what are the user details, right? And it's a first element, because see here what happens, you are having a list. This is a list 0th index, this is a list first index, right? So I'm looking for the 0th index, that is this one, right? So I'm saying that user details 0th index. Now I want to go deep inside there is a concept called user roles, right? Let me check the spelling. Yep, user roles. Now user roles is a list, right? So if I say like this, first user region, right, it should print out to the region value, okay. Now user roles, it should have two, you have S3 access and all those things, but say like you want the region also here, so I'm sorry, I want this region, so I will say this region. I'm printing the user region, my bad, sorry. So next thing is I want to go by this example roles. I will copy this, same thing. I will say first user roles, okay. And there I can add this user roles, right? Great. Similarly, I can use the second user also, right? So let me go to the second user, but this time I'm going to use another function which is called element function, okay. So as we see that the 0th index, this is another way where we can loop over the particular index and get the value. There is also one function inbuilt from Terraform that is called element function, right? I'm going to use that element function. I'm going to show you how it works. So I'm going to use element function, and I have the user details, right? This time I'm going to query the first index, right? So I can just say first index, and I want the region, right? Great, I have the region here. So we'll see here how this reacts. So I will just this is not to initialize anything, I just make it auto upload, and you can see here that first segment it's done. First user region is US East 1, which is true. I can match here. The first region is US East 1, right? And a little small. Yep. So second segment is okay. First user roles, which is a list, right? I was looking for the first user roles, right? And the 0th index, so it has S3 full access and administrator. It's true. I have the user roles, which has this. And the second user, see, I'm using the element function. You can use by the dollar within the braces for our thing, or you can use the element. Element is much more simpler in looks. It's good also. So I'm using the region, that is the second user region. You can see second user region is US West 2, which is correct. As in the second region, you can see US West 2, right? That's the thing with the element function. Now there is one more thing which I would like to do here, which is called a timestamp. That's another function. It's as an additional bonus, I will say. I used to do. So I will say as timestamp as a output variable. What I do is I just simply print a message, say current time is, and you give it $, variable, and you just say timestamp. Okay. So what it does, it just prints a time. So see here, the current time is this. That's the time which is going to print it out along with the code. If you just want to see the timestamp also covered. Great. We're going to cover one more thing. What is called as a any. Remember, we have learned the concept called any. List as any. So I will declare one more variable. Okay. And the variable name I'm just putting as a any data. So here I will just say the list as a type and a list of any type. And I'm going to give the default value of say 08 comma 01 comma 2023, right? So that's the days today, right? Okay, I have declared the variable. That's great. So what now? So I want to make something out of it now. So what I can do is I will output here and I will give a value as any data, and I'm going to use a function called join. Join is a function inbuilt in here. So join function says it needs a separator, right? And what is the value you're going to pass it? So I'm going to pass the value as any data, and not only this blank, I should be giving say hyphen. That makes good. Okay, you'll get to know what I'm doing here. So you can see here when I'm running this thing, you get the date as like this, 8/1/2023, right? Something like that. Okay. That's a thing. So these are the major things which we have covered through our study today, right? I hope this video is informative. Thank you for watching.